In this part 3, we are going to read chapter 3, Motivating Your Child. When a child has trouble sitting still, staying on task, or controlling his impulses, the natural tendency is to punish his outbursts, correct his off task behavior, and still his motion. Although these actions may succeed momentarily, the effects of punishment are usually transient. Though temporarily suppressed, difficult behaviors like weeds spring back up as soon as the negative consequences pass. The parent feels defeated. The child does too. This punishment cycle is repeated many times each day with the ADHD child. But there is another way to motivate your child to learn to change. 99% of the children we ask, "What is discipline?" quickly respond, "Punishment." What comes to your mind? The classic definition of discipline is teaching or training for appropriate behavior. With this view of discipline comes a new orientation to your job as a parent. Rather than looking for and stamping out undesirable behaviors, you turn your focus to nurturing the positive behaviors your child displays and teaching new behaviors to replace the problem ones, which results in more lasting change. In the process, your child gathers motivation to change. This is the approach we advocate for all children, parents, and teachers, but it is even more crucial for youngsters who have ADHD characteristics. Changing a behavior always involves hard work. It will take hard work to help your child change the problem behaviors that hinder him now. It will take time too. Now, no parent should expect to see immediate permanent change. Working parents and even those with more time must adopt a new attitude and a long term view of progress. Like the tortoise, you have time to help your child. Over the years, your effort will pay off as your child builds positive behaviors to replace the old ones. You will see this approach employed throughout this book. It is reflected in the chapter titles Stretching Attention Span, Controlling Activity Level, Beating Distractions, Following Rules. Each chapter presents a new set of techniques your child will learn. In this chapter, we will explain some very important principles that will help to increase your child's motivation. Positive principles. First, pick one problem at a time. It is easy to get overwhelmed. If you were to attempt to work simultaneously on all of the aspects of ADHD demonstrated in this book, you and your child would burn out before a week was through. Instead, focus on one of your child's problems. Follow the suggestions in the appropriate chapter and stick with them until you have made significant progress. Then continue to another area. Start with the basics. If your child has trouble sitting still, you must begin with the exercises in chapter 7 before you can go on to other aspects of training, such as beating distractions. If your child is not hyperactive, you may still choose to begin with calmness training, since the relaxation techniques suggested here often enhance learning in other areas. Concentrating your energy on one aspect of your child's problems makes the project doable. Meeting with some success will increase the motivation to tackle other areas. Even when you focus on one problem, you must think small and look for small steps toward success. Many times, your child's success will be measured in seconds, sitting for a few seconds longer, working for a few additional seconds on a homework task, or waiting a few seconds longer to respond. During a period of days and weeks, those seconds will increase in number and the small steps towards success will add up. Setting realistic goals and working together them 1 second, 1 minute, or one step at a time can lead to sustained progress. We are not Pollyannas. It would be wonderful if all progress were achieved through positive means, but learning often requires both positive and negative consequences. Even so, you will find we talk much more about praising and rewarding children for learning and using new behaviors than we do about negative consequences. We have found it takes more positive and than negative consequences to teach new behavior patterns to a child. Positive consequences are also more effective in encouraging a child to replace old behavior patterns with new ones. Before reading any further, record on a form such as the one shown in figure the next 10 comments you make to your child. For each statement, define it is as a positive comment, a criticism, or a direction. Pick up your books is a direction. Don't pick on your sister is a criticism. And thank you for waiting for me to get off the phone is a positive comment. What percentage of your feedback was negative or directive versus positive? A number of research studies indicate that parents of ADHD children correct and direct their child more often than parents of non-ADHD child. It is a learned response. In an effort to manage and control your child, you too may have become more negative than you would like. When your child is overactive, is easily stimulated, and does not follow rules, when you are exhausted from trying to manage him, it is very easy to recognize only the negative aspects of the child's behavior. One youngster said, I have an attention deficit. I don't get enough attention. Though children seek attention, the question is what kind of attention they receive. Your child wants your attention more than anything else. The key is when and how you give attention. We have a rule of thumb you will find helpful. If you correct your child for a negative behavior, try to praise him four or more times for doing something right before he has chance to misbehave again. You may think this is impossible, but you will be surprised to discover how many positive opportunities pass without comment during the day. If your child sits down between jumps, plays quiet for a minute, asks an appropriate question, puts his napkin in his lap, waits his turn in a game, hangs a towel on a bath board. Each act represents an occasion to praise him. There are numerous positive behaviors that escape notice every day. When you praise your child, avoid good boy or good girl comments. Such praise can backfire. If your child thinks, now they expect me always to be good, I can't do that. It will rob him of his motivation to seek more realistic goals. Give specific positive feedback about what your child does right by saying, I like the way you sat in the chair with your feet on the floor. You provide the child with information about what he did correctly and how pleased you are. You should feel very good about the way you helped your sister complete the puzzle. Also, ask the child to accept responsibility for this behavior. Effective positive feedback gives the child credit for a behavior and motivates the child to take the same actions again. One technique we find very helpful to increase the overall level of Positive feedback is a good behavior diet. Using a simple spiral notebook dedicated to this purpose, record everything in the book your child does right. Tell him that's one for the book. As you record a description of what he did, for the older child, a wink or a private notation may be preferred. At first, review the entries in the diary with your child every day. Later, space them over longer periods of time. If your spouse travels or returns home several days a week after your children are asleep, set regular times to review the list. This will short circuit the old bad news pattern of wait until your father or mother get home. When mom or dad is out of town, sharing the good behavior book with the traveling spouse keeps him or her apprised of the positive activity at home. In addition to praise and attention, we believe in the special use of rewards to establish new behaviors. Throughout our first book, Good Behavior, and this one, we discuss using various charts and a point system to motivate children to succeed. We realize that many parents have tried rewards or used elaborate point systems tracking 14 different behaviors with complicated exchange rates for each. Often the parents and the child becomes frustrated and discouraged by programs that require the youngster to perform for an entire week or more before earning any kind of a reward. Frequently, the initial motivational value of the points fades before the desired behavior change is met. This leads many to conclude that rewards do not work or are not worth the trouble. Other parents avoid rewards because they do not like the idea of paying their children to behave appropriately and fear bargaining for good behavior will be an ongoing struggle. Effective reinforcement. A reinforcement system should be very simple. If you follow these rules, you will use rewards properly and avoid the pitfalls you fear. Use rewards to get a new behavior doing. Once that behavior is established, you will wean your child from the rewards while maintaining the new standard of behavior. Focus all your rewards on one and at most two related behaviors at a time. If you are teaching your child how to sit still, then that should be the focus of your efforts. Later on in chapter 7, sitting still will be given a context such as sitting at the dinner table and using the appropriate utensils. This approach permits you to shape your child's behavior so that build more complex sets of behavior and avoid rewarding every single thing your child does. Give a small immediate reward and points that accumulate for a longer term reward. In the beginning, your child earnings power should have a dual nature. The first time your child cooperates in learning a new strategy, give him an immediate reward. It can be a sticker, an opportunity to select a prize from a grab bag of trinkets you have collected, or some other small reward. In addition, let your child earn points towards a larger reward that he will be able to buy at a later time. Do not make the mistake initially of letting your child select an expensive item that requires the accumulation of many points over an extended period of time. To prevent a child from becoming discouraged and to keep his motivation high, it is important that he redeem points frequently. Since he must spend all of his points once each goal is met, a child will be regularly exchanging points for smaller items, privileges, and activities that can be earned in a few days. Gradually, as a behavior builds, your child should have the opportunity to work for longer rewards that take longer time to earn. For this plan to be most effective, children need to see the points they are earning accumulate. You might use plastic tokens or poker chips saved in a glass containers if you like. We have adopted a paper and pencil system of totaling points because it can be maintained anywhere and you will never run out of chips. The first national bank of points is shown in the figure. Using this chart, your child fills in increasing parts of the bank as he earns additional points. Each point is represented as a number. As it is spent, the number is crossed out and a new series is started. Another form of this bank is shown in the figure. At first, make it easy to earn a reward in just a few days. Figure 3.3 depicts Jim's bank. Jim, who is 5 years old, earned a free reach into a grab bag his mother filled and a point to deposit in his point bank each time he sat in his chair for the specified goal. When he accumulated 3 points for sitting in his chair at the dinner table, he exchanged them for a reward. Since he spent all of his points, Jim was eager to work toward a new goal. Your child should be able to exchange his points for a reward within a reasonable period of time. The younger the child, the shorter the time delay can be. In the beginning, this means just a few days of effort. Gradually, increase the requirements for the reward and increase the time it takes to earn the reward by 1 day increments. Over time, you will increase the requirements so that your child must show improvement to earn the same number of points. For the second dinner time goal, Jim had to sit longer at the table to earn a point. This was more difficult for him, so it took a little longer for him to achieve the goal, but he earned at least 1 point and a pull from the grab bag each step of a way. In the game of statue, in chapter 7, the child learns to sit still for increasing periods of time. The first time he follows directions, he may earn 1 point for sitting still for a few seconds. The next time, he will earn 1 point for matching that record and 2 points for exceeding it. He would not earn points for lesser performance. As the child's control improves, the requirements for earning a reward naturally increase. Keep in mind, though, that if the cost of the rewards is so high that it seems impossible to earn the points to acquire them, the child will not be motivated to continue. Slowly phase out daily rewards. When you see that the new behavior is fairly well established, slowly phase out the immediate rewards. Continue with the point system, surprising your child with an immediate reward every other work session, once in a while and then randomly. Charts should be a visual record of your child's progress. The process of the chart is so illustrate your child's progress. The charts should be easy to read and simple to use. Throughout this book, we have included charts that you may copy and use with your child. You may also order the charts and other materials discussed. By keeping in mind the following principles, you will be able to create effective charts of your own use. Chart 1 Behavior or cluster of behaviors at a time. It is impossible to keep track of numerous behaviors simultaneously. Make a chart visually portray the developing behavior. Bar graphs are very helpful in this respect. A very simple bar graph shown in figure was used to depict Jim's increasing ability to sit at a dinner table. Each bar represents the number of minutes he sat at the table each day without stopping to read actual minutes. It is apparent Jim is making progress. The charts and tables in this book are created with this principle in mind. Use the chart consistently. You must use the chart each time you work on the new behavior, otherwise, its effectiveness will be lost. That is another reason why the chart should be simple to use and maintain. Use a variety of rewards. Rewards act as reinforcers for desirable behaviors. Anything you increases your child's motivation to try again or continue a behavior is a reward. It can be a privilege, a trinket, an activity, or a material object. Any reward that is repeatedly employed will lose its appeal. So it is to your advantage to vary them. To create a menu of items or activities from which your child can choose this reward. Ask him about his preferences. You may copy the reinforcer survey in figure or create one of your own. Remembering the principles that have been discussed, it is then up to you to place a price on each reward. The rewards should be priced so that your child can easily earn some items within a brief period of time, while others take long. Don't forget to praise. Always pair your specific praise with the points that you award. It makes both the praise and points more meaningful. Ultimately, your child will be working for your recognition and his own intrinsic pleasure. Award points as soon after the behavior occurs as humanly possible. To be effective, points should be earned immediately. Instructions are given within each chapter about how to award points. Keep your promises. Give the reward or exchange points at the time you promise. Avoid IOUs. You must deliver the goods to a child. Delay is a promise unkept. Points should be awarded immediately, and you should maintain a regular exchange schedule. To make your point system most effective, insist on the rule that your child must spend all points earned toward a goal at the time the goal is reached. For example, with the game of statue introduced in Chapter 7, your child will learn to sit for 5 minutes. When that goal is achieved, he must spend all points. Your child will then be motivated to earn new points for the next goal. This same rule should be in effect when you move to a new problem area. Replace rewards with natural consequences once a behavior is very well established. Once a behavior is well established, it is time to phase out the rewards by emphasizing the naturally occurring positive consequences of good behavior. This will be easy to do. In our system, rewards are used only as a means of establishing a new behavior. Once a goal is met, you will move on to a new behavior and another area of work. The well established behavior should be reinforced by your continuing recognition, praise, natural consequences, and for good measure, an occasional surprise. Natural consequences are the logical outcomes that follow a behavior. This type of reinforcement is totally in your control and given as recognition for appropriate behavior. It is a natural payoff for performing well. When your child learns to sit at the dinner table and follow the rules of the table, one possible natural positive consequence is for the child to be allowed to go to a restaurant and that was previously off limits. When a child gets dressed quickly in the morning, this naturally leads to extra free time before the cartoon comes. Learning how to complete 5 math problems is in 5 minutes rather than 47 minutes might lead to extra television time. Negative consequences. It would be nice to think that your child or any child will respond so well to positive consequences that you will not need to apply any negative consequences. Unfortunately, that is rarely the way it works, especially for the child with ADHD characteristics. Although an emphasis on recognizing and building positive behavior must come first, sometimes other techniques are needed in order to motivate your child to change. In fact, as compared to other children, ADHD youngsters definitely appear to need more positive and negative consequences to change their behavior. Sometimes the simplest and most effective way to change a child's behavior is to ignore. Many of the most irritating behaviors of children are attention seeking behaviors. Throwing a tantrum, winning, and interrupting are often attention seeking behaviors that can be effectively eliminated through systematic ignorance. When you ignore a behavior, you must totally ignore all aspects of the behavior, from a quick glance to a direct response. You must remove all attention from the behavior. A slight look or a frown is frequently all it takes to prompt the negative behavior. You must not react to the unwanted behavior in any way. Look away, pretend you are busy, leave the room. If you cannot leave, then move to another area. As soon as your child begins to act positively or even neutrally, attend to him again. By systematically ignoring inappropriate behaviors and positively attending the appropriate behaviors of your child, you focus on us as a spotlight filled with your attention on appropriate behavior while directing the light away from the undesirable behavior. Often, when attention is first removed, the old inappropriate behavior increases. If you think about it, the persistence makes sense. Throwing a tantrum always worked before, why not now? Your child will do his best to get the attention he is used to receiving. Never choose to ignore a behavior unless you can stick with the decision. Once your child learns there will be no response, the behavior will decrease and finally stop. But if you give in and the tantrum and other attention getting behavior will become more firmly entrenched. There are times when it is necessary and appropriate to use negative consequences. The most effective negative consequences are those that are used sparingly, follow the undesired behavior immediately, and applied consistently. As a rule, we do not recommend the use of physical punishment. It places you in an awkward situation of modeling an undesirable behavior hitting, nor is it the most productive technique at your disposal. Two negative consequences you can use more effectively are timeout and overcorrection. Timeout is a technique that has been around for a very long time. Grandma had her corner long before the term timeout was coined. Timeout means timeout from positive reinforcement. It works best when your child has been reinforced through praise and reward for appropriate behavior. To use timeout, identify a location where your child is safe, bored, or but feels that he is missing out on the action and keep these principles in mind. Generally, timeout should be set according to the number of minutes in the child's age. For an 8-year-old, that would be mean 8 minutes. For a 3-year-old, 3 minutes. Long periods of time in the corner of the child's room are non productive. A short timeout period emphasizes the error of the child's way but quickly gives him a chance to act appropriately. Set a timer for the proper number of minutes, informing the child that if he is sitting quietly when the bell rings, he will be free to rejoin the activity. Add minutes for resistance. We are continually asked what to do if a child leaves the timeout chair. The answer is very simple. With regard to a young child, stand behind the child holding him in place. Matter of factly, state that when he is calm and the bell sounds, he will be able to leave the seat. Avoid additional conversation. For an older child, add 1 minute to the timeout period for each instance of resistance, not exceeding 4 extra minutes. If your child continues to resist, it is better to take away a privilege than struggle with a child you cannot forcibly keep in time. Ignore any outbursts from the child. Do not enter into discussions or lectures during or after time. This only gives the child attention at the wrong time and can prompt further outbursts. Again, remove your attention totally until your child is out of timeout and beginning to act appropriately. Overcorrection is another powerful technique to end persistent negative behaviors. Combined with what Dr. Nathan Azreen describes as positive practice, these techniques have the added advantage of teaching appropriate behavior. You will find them extremely effective alternatives to yelling and nagging. Undo the damage and teach a new response. From the child, from the child's point of view, you are asking him to undo the damage and fix it. Of course, learning to consistently replace the undesirable behavior with a more positive one requires some practice of a new behavior. If your child impulsively puts out toy after toy, leaving each one on the floor, use overcorrection to undo the behavior and teach him the new one. In this case, the child is asked to put each toy in its proper place, take the attitude that he obviously has not received enough practice in this skill. Over practice the new behavior. After undoing a behavior, the child should then repeatedly practice more of a new behavior. After picking up the toys that were out of place originally, the youngster should join you in searching the house for other out of place items to put away. As another example, if a child runs out of the street, he should return to the side, then over practice the correct way to cross the street 10 times. Supervise the practice session. If your child is resists practicing, manually guide him through the correct actions. If he will not pick up the toys, hold his hands, and guide them to what fashion through the task. Keep calm, ignoring any complaints or outbursts, but do remind your child that any time he needs more practice, you will gladly oblige. With this power packed technique, children learn that it is easier to do a task correctly the first time than to practice. Each of the techniques we have discussed in this chapter is used throughout this book. By knowing effective ways to promote the behaviors you seek to build, you will have to you will have the confidence to work with your child. There are many things you need to do, but the first step will be to gain your child's support. He needs to understand the goals you will seek to get. This is all about the third chapter. Now, in next audio, we will be recording fourth chapter, how to explain ADHD to your child.